Good morning. Gonna wait for a few more people to join in. Huh. I guess it's just really dark here today. Document camera. I guess I don't need my document camera for this class, do I? Hola! Gonna wait about one more minute and then I'll begin. Alright, cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Um, so, first of all, your IA is supposed to be turned in today. I am going to give you 5 points for turning in the IA on time. So that would mean by 11:59 p.m. tonight. Um, so, because I have to grade them and it's going to take me a lot of time, and so I want to do that as quickly as possible. Um, the triad ended on Friday, so I will be submitting grades fairly soon. So if there are any late assignments that you submitted that are not in the gradebook, you need to send me a Canvas message so that I can update that for you. Okay? Um, so, what are we going to learn about today? Well, I think it should be a pretty easy lesson. So, what we're going to learn about today is a class called local date time. And so, what I was doing, the other day was I was looking at a list of what are some useful APIs, useful classes for Java programmers to know. And this is one of them that was in the list, okay? So I thought, yeah, gee, that does sound pretty useful. So let's learn about it. So the class is called local date time. All right. And so I guess it almost doesn't even have a constructor, but there are a lot of methods that so the class has a lot of methods, and many of them return local date times. So I believe there's a method called, so there's a couple of useful methods here. One of them is called now, okay? And so that's a static method. So it's if you wanted to use this method, you would say local date time dot now. So remember, static methods are methods of the class itself. And as you can see, it obtains the current date time from the system clock in the default time zone. Okay. So that's one way you can get a time essentially, and you're going to use this in the assignment for today. And then there are two more that I could see. One of them is to use this of method, and so it basically turns see how it specifies the year, month, day of the month, hour, and minute. So you basically would type each of those in individually, and then you can define a local date time that way. And then there's one more, which is parse. So if you call local date time dot parse on a string, and if the string has something in it that looks like a date and time, then it's going to turn that into a local date time object. So you can see that the format for that is you have, year dash month dash day, T for time, and then the time in military time, 24-hour time. Okay. So I hadn't thought about that, but that is a little bit weird that this class doesn't have a constructor. It just has static methods that return local date time objects. So that's kind of strange. So then you have a couple of getter methods that are useful. So you can get day of the month, day of the week, day of the year, hour, get month, get nanosecond, get second, get year, etc. So there are all these getter methods where you can get parts of that. So that is useful. Other methods that I thought were useful were comparators of two different date times. So checks if this date time is equal to another date time. That's useful. Is before, is after, is equal. So there are all these Boolean methods that allow you to compare different times. There are also methods that allow you to change the time. So we have minus. So returns a copy of this date time with a specified amount subtracted. There's another one that adds, plus is what it's called. So there are all these different ways that you can change the time. And then there are different ways that you can compare times, and there are different ways that you can define times. So let's take a look at a program that I wrote that uses this class. I wrote this program late at night, and it's a little bit morbid. I don't know why I wrote the program this way, but I did. So I apologize in advance. Let me make this bigger. Okay, so first of all, importing the class. Import java.time.localDateTime. So that is how I imported that class. All right, so it doesn't come with, you have to include an import statement. And then I'm also going to be using a scanner to get input from the user. Okay, so first thing I do is I just define a scanner to take input from the user. And then I prompt the user to enter a birthday. All right. So, and then I gave it a specific format. Now, if I said parse, if I called parse on just their, okay, so see how what I do is I then take a scanner.next line. So that's going to be the date part of it. But if I just called parse on a date, it's going to give an error, all right, because it's a date time. It needs a date and a time in addition to that. So while I had the user type in the date of the birthday, I then concatenated onto that string. I concatenated on the time part, and I just called the time midnight. 0 is, of course, midnight in military time. And so, all right. So, and then that's the variable birthday. Okay. So, then what I did was I then, okay, so let me type that just to explain. So, on a time to the date. So then what I did is I prompted the user, how many days does the person live? Okay. So, you know, we could request that from the user in any unit. I could have said how many months or how many seconds or whatever. Okay. So, and then I take an input from the user, and it's a long. That's because, so why did I define it as a long? If we look back to, give me a second. If we look back to, I'm going to be using the plus days method, and the plus days method accepts a long, which is called days. All right. So the input for the plus days method is a long int. So what is the difference between a long and an int? An int has a certain maximum size. A long has a larger maximum size. So it's just a bigger version of an integer. Okay, so basically I prompt the user to type in the number of days they live. Life days is a long because the next method takes a long number. Okay. So then I define another local date time called death day, which is the birthday plus the number of days that they live. Okay. So day of death equals birthday plus life length. Okay, so that's what that's doing. So then what it's going to print out, now this is a really long string with a lot of stuff concatenated onto it, so maybe I'll do it this way. So I'm gonna, because the white space doesn't matter, so I can put this all in one line if I want to. Maybe should I do this? Do it like this. Give me a second to format this a little bit better. Okay, so I have a really long bunch of string segments concatenated onto each other. So it says they will pass on, and then I have death day dot get day of the week, Now, if we look at the get day of the week method, where is it on here? Get day of the week returns a day of the week object, which is not a string. So I had to put that into the form of a string. So you can see what I did here is I did get day of the week dot toString. Okay. Same thing with get month. The get month method returns a month object, which is not a string. Okay. So I can't. If I had excluded this part, it wouldn't make sense to concatenate it onto the string that's already there, because that isn't a string. So I have to put it into a string form by calling the toString method. And then day of the month returns an integer, which automatically, man, bug is eating really loud, returns a integer. Okay, so I don't need to worry about that one. And then get year also returns an integer. So some of these methods are returning integers, which can be concatenated onto strings. Others are not. So basically what this is going to do is it's going to outputs the date of passing. And then I have another string that says that is and then I have a ternary operator here, which I'm not sure if I've gone over this ternary operator. So let me just talk about it down here. It's kind of a unique operator, I think. And this was the perfect instance for using it. So I was like, oh, I'll just use this one. So there's an operator, ternary, which means 3. Ternary operator of the form. And so basically you have expression, question mark, and then you have something if true, and then the next thing is if false. So basically, or this should be a Boolean expression. So this is it's basically a really compact way of doing an if-else statement. So what it does is it evaluates this Boolean expression and sees if it's true or false. And then if it's true, it does the first option, and if it's false, it does the second option. Okay? So for example, what if I said, int x equals 3. All right. And then I said int y equals x greater than 5, question mark. 1, 100, something like this, okay? So what's that going to do? Well, okay, so x is equal to 3. So I have a Boolean expression here, x greater than 5. X is not greater than 5, right? 3 is less than 5. So it's not going to set y equal to this option. It's going to set y equal to that option. So y is going to be 100. Okay? Similarly, if I had changed this and I said, I don't know, x equals 95, 95 is greater than 5, so y is going to be set equal to 1. So how did I use that in this program here? Well, what I did is I said, so I output the day of passing, okay? And then I said that day of passing, which I called morbidly the death day dot is before now. So I'm using the local date time dot now method. So it's doing right now. It's comparing it to right now. That, and it's seeing is the date of passing before or after today. All right. So you can see that if the death date is before now, then the string that I'm concatenating on is before, and if it's not before, then it must be after. I suppose it could be equal, but the chances of that are really low. And so if not, it says after today. All right. So let's run this program and see how it works. Oh, I have to close this, I believe. There. So compile it. All right. So I'm going to run it. Okay, so you can see it says type in the person's birthday in the form YYY-MM-DD. So, I don't know, maybe I'll type in my dad's birthday. 1954 dash March dash 28. I think that's his birthday. How many days does the person live? Okay, so I could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12,345 days. That's not very long. That's like what, 50 some years, 40 years. So it says they will pass on Thursday, January 14th, 1988. That is before today. All right. So it compared this to this time, this date time to now, and 1988 is obviously before 2021. Now, what if I do something, what if I run the program again and I type in, okay, 1954. Is it 1954 or 1955? I can't remember. Now I'm going to have to text my dad and ask him. Okay, and then let's say the person lives 1,000,000 days. So now it says they will pass on Monday, February 22nd, the year 4692. It's a nice sounding year, isn't it? 4692, which is obviously after 2021. So the ternary operator is doing its thing correctly. All right. So this is a pretty light lesson today. I hope it made sense. And I will see you in the Zoom room in just a moment. Okay? Bye-bye.